And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Getting ready to go live here on Amazon Live with my next guest, which is Kevin Thomas McCarney. You see him there. He's the author of a great book I had a chance to read called Big Brain, Little Brain. Kevin, I was working earlier to make sure we don't get too much ring light on your book cover when I'm holding it up. So I think there's going to be a good place for it. I want to say for you all who have not gotten Kevin's book, this is a great book. And in fact, had an awesome conversation with Kevin on the radio side, Conversations Live for our audience in Mississippi and online. But Kevin, thank you so much for writing this book and being a part of our broadcast today. Really appreciate it.
Sorry, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the time.
Well, look, the pleasure to help you all mine. We're going to go ahead and connect with our family over on Amazon Live, and we'll begin the conversation. I want to say for those who are not joining us on Amazon Live, though, if you want to get a copy of Kevin's book, I've made it very easy for you guys. There's a link that is with this particular video, no matter what platform you're watching us on. It'll take you over to the Amazon Live page. There you have to do is click below, and you'll be able to get the book. For Amazon Live audience, they'll be seeing it directly. So, Kevin, we're going to go ahead and get started. And you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. And I really appreciate our next guest being on with us. We had a great conversation on Conversations Live, the radio show, about his new book, Big Brain, Little Brain. It's a great book, not only about communication, but also us thinking more about what we say and also how our actions can impact others as well. Kevin Thomas McCarney and I are going to talk about not only about the book, what led him to write Big Brain, Little Brain, but also let you guys know what he hopes you're able to take away from it. I want to say, first of all, for those joining us on the Amazon Live side, if you all are not following us already, click over in this corner. If you're joining us on your desktop or laptop, there you'll see the follow button. If you're on your mobile device, you'll notice it is below us. Also, for those who are tuning in on your desktop or laptop, you'll notice below, you'll see Kevin's book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel there on Amazon Live. You all can click on that to be able to order your copy. For those tuning in on your mobile device, the book will be on your side. Kevin, thank you again for joining us today on Amazon Live. Really appreciate it.
Cyrus, thank you. This is going to be a wonderful conversation.
Look, we were just talking about earlier. I mean, we had such a great time on the radio show, and this is such an important conversation for us to have, Kevin. So let's go back a little bit. For those who are just discovering Big Brain, Little Brain, what led you to initially write the book?
Initially, I saw so many different situations where people were overreacting in the moment and really creating a negative ripple effect for their lives, and so I started studying this whole idea about reactions versus responses and really beginning to understand it. And I really dug into it and began to define the differences between what I would consider the big brain, the neocortex up here, everything we know that we're smart and everything, and that little reptilian brain, right, I put right next to the mouth, which is the one that gets us in trouble. And it says the wrong thing at the wrong time in front of the wrong people. And even though we know better, right, that little brain is quicker and faster and can get out the negative comment. Big brain is in control. It's genuine. It's empathetic, thoughtful. Big brain is a good listener. Little brain is impulsive. It's that sarcastic, snarky comment that we think, oh, it's going to feel good to say this. And we realize later, yeah, maybe that wasn't so good. And it's careless and it's not a good listener. So it's really the battle between these two brains over that emotions and the words that you can control in that moment. And as I began to see the results, the consequences of simple little mistakes, sometimes little brain mistakes, and the ripple effect that it had on people's lives, I really started to say, I've got to do something here. And in my own company where we're training people on this, it was so obvious to me that people became big brain or little brain sometimes, depending upon the moment that they're in and the influences and if they feel activated. And I think that it's definitely having an impact on people, but I think that it had an impact on me too. I got to see in my own life how I may have been using my little brain and I shouldn't, and how I can get away from doing that.
Kevin, and that's why I'm so glad we're able to have this conversation, because unfortunately we live in a world where people think it's cute to let their little brain kind of lead the day. They think being snarky is the funny thing. That is, that's the thing that's going to make them memorable. They think that's what's going to get them attention. What I love about this book, though, is that it really shows the impact. I read something from the book on the radio side I want to share here with our audience, Kevin, and that is in chapter 4 of the book, The Moment. And for those who have the print edition like I do there, it's found on page 37. But this is what Kevin wrote, and then we'll talk about it, Kevin. Communication happens in the space of a moment. When you wake up in the morning and greet your family, that's a moment. Each time you use social media, email someone, or answer a call, those are moments. When you get to work, every interaction with your coworkers is a moment. All these moments come together and become the experiences that make up your life, your reputation, and the foundation of your relationships. And what the powerful thing about that, Kevin, is that a lot of people they don't realize how in those moments they can affect someone positively or negatively, right? When did you realize that for yourself that in those moments, in your engagements with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, that you have the opportunity to either uplift them and empower them or to discourage them and dissuade them?
Well, I was underneath a Christmas tree early on when my daughter was 5. Um, I was under a Christmas tree hooking up the lights, and this was one of the many lessons that I learned and took notes on. And I was so concentrated on the tree and what I was trying to do, and I could just see my daughter's little feet get on the rung of the ladder. And I went, "Oh, Caitlin, you got to get down from there." And she said, "But daddy, daddy." And I go, "Caitlin, you've got to get down from there." Raise my voice a little bit, right? Parental voice number 2, right? And she went up the next rung on the ladder. I could just all I could see was her feet. And I go into parental voice number 3. "Caitlin, Rose, get down from there." Right. And she continues up the ladder. And this is not like her. I'm just going, what is going on? She's not listening. She always listens. And I couldn't see. I couldn't see what was going, what she was doing. And then so I go, "Caitlin," really loud. And I got out from under the tree and I was about to launch a really probably a little brain comment. And I look at her. She's got the angel in her hand, and she wants to put it
Mm.
on top of the tree. And she looks at me, and I said, "Caitlin, you've got to get down from there. It's very dangerous." And this 5-year old taught me this lesson. She says, "Daddy, I like that tone better." And it's like,
Wow.
whoa, whoa. Here's a 5-year old teaching me about tone. And it was just one of the many lessons that I learned in life is that the impact that I had as a father, talking to my children, using that what's accepted parental raising your tone, to try to get more attention. And the damage it could have done if I had continued that. I was so amazed. It was one of the ways I began to start taking notes. And then in the different jobs I had, I did the same thing. If I noticed something like, wow, I didn't recognize that. And so I wanted my both my daughters have taught me many lessons on communication.
And I think that's it. We never know where these lessons will come from. When I was first pitched your book, Kevin, and I didn't tell you this, but I knew I was going to enjoy it before I even read a page because these are not conversations that we're having today, unfortunately. We're not sharing with people the impact that their actions can have on others and the way that they can make people feel and even respond to others by the way that they say. Do you think that is a power that is not being given enough attention? I know a lot of times we expect it of people in certain positions, but do you think we as individuals don't think enough about the impact we can have on others?
You're so right. We have the most impact on our own lives, right? And we think it's other people, but it's really we have the most impact, and we have an impact on the people close to us, and it's a residual impact that continues. It has almost every conversation we have, may it be minor or major, has a ripple effect on our relationship with that person. And if we're upset and we say a snarky comment and just walk away, well, that's a negative ripple effect that's going to be there until we find a way to go back and either apologize or diminish it. If we have a positive impact, that's going to have a positive ripple effect, and that's really going to make a difference in all these interactions we have. And you're right about today. Today, courtesy has been diminished quite a bit. I think a lot by social media sometimes that can get out of control, where people say something because they feel like, oh, I got to say this, and then everybody jumps on it and says, "Oh, I'm going to say something back," and it just turns into a cycle of negative comments toward each other. And I think that this is where even some of the social media platforms have realized, yeah, we have to sort of not encourage this negative activity. But I really think that for taking our own time to control our words and what we say and what we decide to type and what we decide to send to people or we decide to post is going to have an impact on our all those friends and for a long time to come, because everything today is on the internet forever.
It's funny hearing you talk about the ripple effect. You actually say this in the book. And I must say, for those who are just tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. We're glad to be able to bring our other friends along for this conversation. We're excited to welcome Kevin Thomas McCarney to our program. Kevin's the author of this book you all see there, Big Brain, Little Brain. It's available right now on Amazon. For those joining us on the Amazon side, I appreciate you. We have it highlighted right now. You all can go ahead and click it just to be able to get your own copy of it. We're going to also remind you how you can stay connected with Kevin. You say this about the ripple effect on page 42 of the book, Kevin. Inevitably, there are those moments that test you that can, in an instant, take your mild, tranquil day and create a situation where you need to react or respond too quickly. The pressure to act will be powerful, but the ability to read the moment and take that extra bit of time to put your big brain in control will not only save you from saying or doing something you'll regret, it will also identify you as someone who is self assured and composed. When someone is activated, time is the best tool to allow them to come back to big brain mode. And I thought about myself personally here with this, Kevin. I had an incident happen with a good friend of mine, and I said something in my feelings that as soon as I said it, I thought, you know what? I wish I had said that. And even they said to me, because my friends know in my friend zone, you're supposed to be honest. That's one of the things we say. And he said, well, that was harsh. And it was right. He was exactly right. It was harsh. It was a harsh thing to say. But I love what you say there, because a lot of times we don't, and it goes to the point you were just making. So I want you to pull on that a little bit more, Kevin, because a lot of times we don't. We read something and we have this thing about reacting. Someone says something and we automatically feel like we have to react. How important is it just to take that time, to take that moment and say, let me assess this and the best way to respond to it?
It's one of the most critical parts of my journey in writing this book. Is it was to find a place for people to go when they feel when they feel like they got to say something. They feel like I have to say this comment to get out there. And you know, a lot of the conversation out there has been, oh, it's a fight or flight brain, and it's just count to 10. That's not enough. And
Yeah.
there's fight and there's flight. But in the book, and I that chapter on this one specific tool that people needed more, because I was giving presentations, people needed more than just go to your big brain. They needed a place to go under pressure, and then give them the tools when they're there, how to pivot away from their letting the little brain take over. So the chapter on neutral is how to get to neutral. How to get to neutral. You don't have to go to fight or flight. Get to neutral. Get to that space where you get an instant awareness of the moment you're in and go, oh, I better not let little brain take over here. And it happened to me when I walked into my house after a very, very, very long day at work. I was expecting to just relax, take it easy, put on some music. And I walked in and there's 25 choir kids jumping up and down and singing at the top of their lungs. And I'm walking and I go, okay, what do we got here? Right? Because I was, obviously I needed to vent out that, little frustration in the moment. But the idea was to get to neutral. And my neutral word, and I ask people to find their own. I give examples in the book, but find their own neutral word. I think we all have it inside of us. That neutral word when we walk into a situation where we get surprised, and it's like we want to overreact, or we think just react, but it's overreacting. But we can take that instantaneous moment where we can get that more productive words out of our mouth rather than just letting it go. And the most significant part of that point is the tone of voice that's used when you're using your neutral word, because
Yeah.
the tone is the message. And if I'd walked into that same scenario and went, okay, what do we got here? Wow, right? It sends a completely different message to the audience, but it's exactly the same words. So that your tone is the message. You got to control your tone. If you can control your tone, you can control your life. You control any conversation you're in if you can control your tone. And I think that it is a lesson for me that I learned along the way. I have so many examples when I didn't control my tone in my youth, and it always came back to bite me. So if you can control your tone, even when you're under pressure, even when somebody insults your favorite baseball team, oh, I can't let them do that. It's like, or if they start raising their tone, don't follow them. Don't follow them into that negative little brain tone world where you now have to one up each other, because that's where conversations turn into confrontations, because
Yeah.
everybody thinks, oh, I can just get louder, they can get louder, and leads to a more physical concept of the conversation. I really believe that if we have a much stronger control of our tones, and I ask people, practice your tone, practice your neutral word. Look at a TV show, look at a cable program that you're not going to like, and practice your neutral tone. Look at it, say, practice that, because once you get good at it, your neutral, it becomes an immediate reflex reaction for you. You can get to neutral without even thinking.
Tamika English on the Facebook side says, yes, that is completely true. Appreciate you watching us there on the Facebook side. Also want to acknowledge you all who are tuning in also on YouTube, LinkedIn. We appreciate you. I see you all over there. Feel free, you have any comments for Kevin, make sure you guys post those. We'll be glad to be able to share those on screen as well. Kevin, you just said something and it made me think about, you and I were talking about before we went on here about chapter 6 of the book, the 7 principles that you outlined. But when you were just talking, I think the other thing is, and this is where we've gotten kind of screwed up, it seems like, that we think by raising our voice, by being the more, rambunctious one, that makes us bigger. And instead, what you help us to see in the book is that we become the little brain. We become, less than. Not only, do we make other people feel that way, we then become that thing as well. You give an interesting correlation in the book also that we didn't talk about on the radio side. I think it's appropriate now that we're talking about this. Talk to us about the connection between time and the way we look at communication and the big brain, little brain, because you address that in the book also.
Yeah, I think we've been trained, at least in the last decade or so, to be a lot more impulsive in our communications. Like somebody sends a text, I've got to send a text back right now. Or somebody sends an email, oh, I got to get back to him right away. Oh, there's an alert. I just got sent an alert on one of these platforms. I have to respond right now. And the reality is you don't have to respond. And sometimes it's better to take time and take, like if you get a little brain text from somebody and you go, well, I'm going to snap some. That's the worst thing you can do. Give it some time, because what will happen is that negative emotion will dissipate. It'll come up and it'll go down. And when that negative emotion is gone, that's when you can take time. What's the appropriate thing to say now? What's the appropriate thing to do here? That's where you can, neutral gives you that amount of time. Neutral gives you that gift of time where you can ponder just for even a split second. Or if you get a negative email from somebody, sometimes they're really long, right? Over the years, you don't have to immediately go point by point and hit it back. You can pick up the phone and call them, because sometimes that's the best response. Instead of text to text or digital to digital, get the voice, at least a voice, if not Zoom or another platform or one-on-one. Make that verbal communication, because it dissipates the negative energy that sometimes digital communication can have, and it holds on to that for a while.
That is another really good point, because a lot of times the way we do talk through messages, whether it's an email or a text, may be totally different than the way we even intend or the person intended toward us. And we then kind of create our own narrative around those words. You also talk about in that chapter, Kevin, that I referenced, chapter 6, the 7 principles, the first impression makes the first impression. And I think, again, it's one of those things, we grew up, I'll say for myself, I grew up, with the importance of the first impression and making sure we're putting our best self forward. Maybe not everyone did get that, but how important is that for us to think about that the way that we do respond, the way that we do show up, not only says a lot about us, but if we're talking about business or relationships, says a lot about how we're going to be in those different facets as well.
You're right. It's what builds trust or takes trust away. And that's where big brain is a trust builder and little brain is a trust destroyer. I think that it's really important that when we have our different situations in our life, and it could happen at any moment. It could happen strategically in the workplace. I had a fantastic chef and a fantastic manager working for me. And for whatever reason, they weren't talking anymore. They didn't talk to each other. They weren't communicating, and they were just grunting at each other. And it's like, and it had an impact on the whole team around. I was like, what's going on here? And so I got to with my partner Patty, and we said, how are we going to fix this? We tried to get them together and talk. It didn't work. Okay, how is there a way we can get a communication between these people without them even being in the same room? And so what we asked the manager to do on the chef's day off, a big meeting they were going to have, but the chef had a personal day. We said, listen, what are the three things that she does incredibly well? And he said, oh, I can tell you three things she does. I said, I know. Tell me the three things she does really well. And he did. He listed them out. I said, okay, tomorrow at the meeting, I want you to go through everything you need to, go through the matrix, and then I want you to finish the meeting with these three comments. You know, she's not here today, but I want to mention three things about the chef and what she does really well, and then end the meeting with that. Because it was a sort of an end around on this face-to-face communication. Is there a way we can get this message to this person
Right.
about respect to each other? Well, the manager was so surprised because 24 hours later, he walks in, and from the part of the kitchen he hadn't heard from really other than grunts for years. Robert, how you doing, sir? I'm fine. How are you? Oh, great. Hey, listen, I want to show you something new that I'm working on right now. And what happened is that in 24 hours, she had heard that he said something super nice about her when she was not in the room. And that was an amazing moment for her because now she believed he really had respect for her. And again, it wasn't a face to face, it was just an sort of a around the side. But what happened is the entire crew looked at this manager now with a tremendous amount of respect because they knew the angst they had. But that comment built trust in that crew that I can trust this person or what they're going to say about me behind my back. And if you can use good, we label this good gossip, you can actually build relationships even when you're not in the room with that person.
Love that. And what a great example as well. I want to once again say for those who are tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. We also are carrying it through other platforms as well. But love for you guys, if you're not doing so already, to make sure you guys click up here, give us a follow here on Amazon Live. We have programming 7 days a week here on the Amazon Live platform at Amazon.com. Invite you all to be with us, including shows like what you're watching today. Today, we're speaking with Kevin Thomas McCarney about his great new book called Big Brain, Little Brain. We have it highlighted in the carousel there on the Amazon Live side. You all can be able to see. So, Kevin, as we wrap up here, the reviews are already coming in for the book. I'm going to be writing my review as well here on Amazon. When you're going through those, if you're one of the authors who likes to read reviews, are you feeling as though people are getting from the book exactly what you hope they got from it?
Yes, I think where I'm surprised is that different people get different things from the book, and it's different parts speak to different people, and that I didn't see coming, but I am happy that they're getting the message, but I am really happy that it speaks to a broader, wider audience because they're all getting different, a little something different.
Love that. So, what is your hope then for our audience that is just discovering Big Brain, Little Brain? And I should mention, because I have not done so already, the subtitle of the book, How to Control Which One Speaks for You. And that's kind of what Kevin and I have been talking about here today. But when people pick up the book, if they're just now discovering it, Kevin, what is your hope that it does for them in reaching them where they are?
Well, I'm hoping that when they read the book and get the message, that their big brain takes over, which is going to give them a nicer life. The ripple effect in their life is going to be repeated daily because big brain will take over. And if they find themselves in little brain situations, they'll know how to pivot quickly away from that And if they do have an oops comment that they make or a snarky comment, go back and apologize and just deal with it so you can end that negative ripple effect. I really believe that people are going to have, and I've have enough comments from people in the presentation I've done where it's a light bulb that goes off when I talk about neutral, because they didn't know it was there. We don't learn interpersonal communication in school. We don't learn that. We learn it from the people around us and from the environment we're in. So unless we're in an environment where there's great communicators, and that's not always true for everybody, it's sometimes we have to find different methodology that we can use in our life that propel us forward. And I think Big Brain, Little Brain will help a lot of people.
Totally agree. Again, everyone, Kevin Thomas McCarney has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Kevin. We had a great one on the radio show. Glad we were able to bring it now to an in-person conversation here for Amazon Live. Again, the book is Big Brain, Little Brain. Make sure you guys click on the book below in the carousel if you're joining us on Amazon Live. If you're not joining us directly on the Amazon Live platform, there is a link that is with this particular conversation. You all can click there. It'll take you over to the Amazon Live side. And Kevin, how can they stay connected with you?
Bigbrainlittlebrain.com is the website. I've got a couple of free downloads for them. They can list the activators, the thing that bother them in their own life, and they can choose some neutral words and keep them close to themselves. But bigbrainlittlebrain.com, and I return all my emails.
Kevin, congratulations to you again. Thank you so much for the time, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
Me too. Cyrus, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
I appreciate that. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, let's make it a great one. Take care.